Hello, and welcome to Marathon Swim Stories, where we connect with marathon swimmers around the world to find out how they got started, what makes them tick, and why they keep going. It's where we explore the human side of the superhuman feats of endurance swimmers, the connections that we have with each other, our support crew, and the waters we cross. If you've ever stood at the edge of a body of water and wondered what it would be like to swim to the other side, you're in good company. I'm Shannon Keegan, marathon swimmer, water relationship coach, and founder of Intrepid Water, where I virtually teach swimming freedom. Freedom to get started, shed the confines of the pool, or your preconceived notions of what's possible. Find out more at intrepidwater.com. Hello. Today, I'm excited to share with you the Marathon Swim Stories Summer Series. It's been a bit of a busy summer for me as the world's opening back up. I can't always track people down for interviews, so I thought it would be fun to do a remix of some of the questions asked of guests in season 1. I hope that you'll enjoy this series. I look forward to some fresh conversations around September. Until then, I always love to hear from you. You can drop me a line anytime, shannon@intrepidwater.com. And as always, thank you for listening. Please tell your friends about the podcast, share these amazing stories, and just keep swimming. Are you a process or an outcome person?
These are great questions. Man, oh day, holy mackerel. I really thought about that. I'm a process person. I love the outcomes, but I've had a lot of, this is the one thing, I'm so glad I started like the little support our swimmers group. I failed miserably in swims. And I shouldn't even say that. Now I can say it. In the moment when I've not completed a swim, it feels like an utter failure. But looking back, it just felt like a failure. But the process, I think, is so much more important for me. It's not so much the outcome. It's looking back to what I put into it. And it's hard to put into words, but yeah, I'm very processed.
There's two sides to me. My work is very process-driven. I'm basically the CFO of Prison Industries out here. And when I work for the state of Indiana, one of my little spratisms is the process is more important than the result. So it's very process-driven, drives me nuts. On the swimming side, it's a little bit of both. Ultimately, it is about the event and the results of the event. So getting there, I hate the training. I hate the planning of it, other than the logistics, which I'm great at. But that's a little bit more about the result.
Probably both. I love swimming for swimming's sake, but if I don't have an event that I'm training for, I find it easy to get unmotivated and have a hard time getting into a rhythm. And I need to have something that I'm working toward to keep me going. So I'd say both. Although I say a goal, it's never time. I'm not a very fast swimmer. So for me, it's not about how fast I'm swimming or I get a PR. It's, can I make it to the other side? That's my goal.
I still, up until very, very recently, had a 21-kilometer swim that I was training for. So I bought myself a pool, put it in my back garden, a paddling pool. So I became one of the tether swimmer gangs, so swimming on a tether. But actually, now that the rivers have opened up again, I'm pretty much down the river most days now.
So that swim you had coming up was still on or not?
It was until about 4 days ago. Then they cancelled it. So I was training in my pool, but it wasn't a heated pool. So I couldn't really go much more than about 40 minutes.
What was this swim you were training for?
Vidosternsimmet. It's a Swedish swim. It's one of the longest swims in Sweden. Don't know if you've heard of it.
I think I've looked into it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's been postponed till next year now. So, so I'm now swimming for fun now. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, definitely a process person. I feel like it's about the journey. Before every swim I do, my husband, the very last thing he says to me before I get in the water is to enjoy the journey. And I have a necklace that I wear that says enjoy the journey. And, he kisses me and off I go on my journey, because it's really about that journey and what you learn about yourself along the way. And, the relationships that you form with people when you're training or when you're swimming and your crew. And it's just been a really great journey. The whole swimming, my whole swimming career, and then also every swim that I do is just a great journey.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would definitely say I'm very outcome oriented, but I do, we're not doing this because we're getting paid. So the process is really important. For me, of course, I think when people are embarking on these huge marathon swims, I always wish that they're, safe, successful, and then have an enjoyable swim, kind of in that order, because I think most people, of course, safety is the absolute minimum, must have type of thing. Then I think, if it's successful, sometimes the more difficult or challenging parts can be overlooked. And then again, we swim because it's enjoyable. We get to see the world. We love the feel of the water. So I would probably rank it in that order. So for me, outcome is important. But, that being said, in terms of the process, kind of doing everything you need to do safety-wise, adhering to doing the right thing kind of in everything that you're organizing, and especially as you're organizing your own swims, I think that's really important as well.
I'm definitely a process person. I'm a scientist in my day job. And so I really do not only take pleasure in the process, but I really tend to everything. Yeah, I just process everything in a very analytical way. I think, which is interesting, because I think I have over time, I think that's become more true. I don't not plan for the outcome, but it's sort of I think when I was younger, I used to just show up at events and I hadn't trained well, especially in that period between after college and before I actually started liking the pool again. I would just show up and do it because I wanted to do it, and I wanted to be done and say, hey, I did this thing. But now it's I really do take pleasure in the act of training and the process to get to a goal.
So this probably will surprise a lot of people, because I think everybody assumes I'm a process person because I process a lot of things.
I think you're an outcome person.
But after thinking about this and hearing everybody's answers, I definitely am an outcome person, and I will say why. It's not the outcome of the medal or finishing the race, but as I mentioned earlier, I fully expect that when I begin to train for something and I'm setting my eyes on an event, I have a purpose in mind of trying to understand something about myself or work on something about myself. And so I'm very driven to get myself in a situation where when I'm at that event, I can be fully aware of what's happening. And the uniqueness of the time allows you to really kind of enter into that moment. So I would say I'm always wanting to get something out of my event in that regard. So it's definitely an outcome driven thing.
Oh, that's it's an interesting question. I love the training. I don't think you do this unless you love doing the training too, because you'd never make it through it. But when your heart's broken and you DNF something you thought you were going to do, You know, it kind of says, oh, maybe you really are an outcome person. I don't know yet. I'm still, I'm still pretty new at doing all this. Would I still jump in knowing that I wasn't going to finish? The answer is yes. So in that aspect, I guess I'm a process person.
It's about the water, not the land.
It's about all the great medals I win. That sort of cracks me up. That part of sometimes where people are like, I want the medal. And I'm always like, what do you do with all these medals? Like, I don't want the medal.
They're sitting in a box and covered in dust at the moment someplace.
One of my friends has them hanging on his shower head. And I thought that was the best place I've ever seen them. He's like, yeah, it inspires me in the morning when I'm like, and I was like, oh, okay.
That could work.
And it's not out in the
What to do
public.
with mine?
Maybe Christmas tree ornaments.
What was that?
I was just thinking,
That was a good answer.
me, Christmas tree ornaments.
Yeah.
I like that.
You'll need a strong tree though, Janine.
I think my mum has made me a process person. I think if I was true to myself, I'd probably be outcome. I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to my swims. Everything else in my life's not. My swimming, I am. And Rennie, who kayaked for me in Scar the first year, and Blake, the second time I did Scar, they laughed because I had the laminated card with all my feeds on it attached to my feed bag. And everything has to be like, so I've got all my bottles, they're color coded because in hotter water I do change my feed slightly and have an isotonic every third or fourth feed with my jelly babies, which are like really nice little sweets. So I have my bottles color coded and a card to tick off my feeds. So I would say for that kind of stuff, from a swimming, everything's a process. But then other things, I'm just like, screw it, let's just go and try it and see what happens. So I think it is about getting the balance of the two. Once I'm in the water, I'm very much, I just need to swim. That's my job. Everybody else deals with the processes, deals with everything that's going on. My job is just to put my arms around, but beforehand, it's very much a process.
Hello, Marathon Swim Story listeners. If you enjoy the stories of marathon swimmers as much as I do, you have got to check out the book, One Stroke at a Time, by South African marathon swimmer and coach, Sue Ush. Use code MSS10 to get 10% off the ebook. Head over to swimfast.co and click on ebook to order your copy. That discount code again is MSS10. I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. How do you keep going?
Whatever's next. Like I said, I get out of a swim and I'm like, okay, now the next thing. And I really think that does motivate me to keep going. I think it does, again, like the mental health stress release mechanism aspect of it too. Like that feeling, like it's great. I thrive on that feeling. But it's just, I think I love being able to use swimming to travel. And I like using it as an excuse to travel. And I'm fortunate to be able to do some of that in terms of, like my job allows it. And I mean, now obviously nobody allows it, but I have, basically just trying to explore via swimming. That also motivates me to keep going because there's plenty of places I haven't swum yet. And I'd like to swim in different places like Montana and San Francisco. Never swum there. So yeah, that keeps me going.
So I love to crew. It's the other thing. And for those of you who have never crewed, I don't think that's true for maybe anyone on this, but I love to crew. If I can't swim, I want to be on crew. And I was crewing somebody who was swimming the length of Lake George.
I think I met you then.
Huh?
I think I met you then at Mossy Point.
Oh, yes, I think I did. See?
For Janet.
No. I did not crew Janet.
Oh, must have been another one. Sorry.
Maybe Lynn. And the person was like 2 miles, and they're like, oh, you're lying to me. And because you can't see the end of that swim, it kind of comes around a corner. And she's like, I need some inspiration. I said, because you don't want to have to come back and do it again next year because you didn't finish it this year. And she's like, oh, and off she went. And I was like, that's what keeps you going, because you're like, I don't want to come back and do this one again next year. I got this list of other ones I want to do. And so that's what keeps you going.
I think it's about the challenge, and it's about pushing those boundaries where I love it when people say you can't do something and you almost give them 2 fingers and show them that you can. And that's where I am. So after the Minch is probably the closest I've come to retiring, and I was all for stopping. And my kayaker said, but you swim, that's what you do. And I'm like, yeah, but I could find something else to do. And he's like, no, but you swim. So last year, instead of doing any big swims, my coach, although my name's Colleen, my coach and my family call me Call. So there's an island called the Isle of Call in Scotland. So Brian suggested that we just went and, for fun, tried to swim around the Isle of Call over a few days, not in one go. The plan was to see if you could do it in one go, because he said, we'll swim around the Isle of Call. And I was like, in one go? And he's like, no, in 4 or 5 days. And I'm like, no, but can we do it in one go? And he's like, well, because of the tides, I don't know. Let's go and plan it first. I was like, oh, right, okay. So the idea of going to do something short and fun had never really entered my head, because I've always done long stuff. So last summer, I did the Corryvreckan Whirlpool, which is one of the largest whirlpools in the world, but it's slack tide, you could swim across it. So I did that with a group, and I did lots of short fun stuff, which has kind of just made me more determined to go back to doing long stuff again. And I think, we've got a few things we're looking at, probably won't happen this year now, but it's just finding new challenges.
Well, my kayaker, she was very, very calm, and she's like, I know this is frustrating, and I'm like, frustrating is identifying my emotions. Let's accept it. And so, after I kind of acknowledged my feelings, I did the fastest 3 miles of the swim, and it also helped that the current was changing, but just helped me kind of push through it. So
identifying your feelings, is that or the kayaker, or both?
Because my companion swimmer, she was I guess it was about 11 miles, and Dan was like, you want the good news or the bad news? And I was like, well, is that a freighter or land? And he says, that's a freighter. And he's like, and you've been swimming into a current all night. And I was like, okay. He goes, but you're more than halfway. And I'm like, well, I can't be more than that much of halfway, because I still see boats. That means I'm in the shipping lane. I should be seeing land 4 to 5 miles out. And I just put my head back down in the water, and I was like, ugh. Then I looked back up, and Amber got in the water to come swim with me, and she got out, and she's like, she's just rage swimming right now. So it's is there only, I guess I punched the water for maybe 6 miles, and then finally got it together and took it on in. But that was a rough swim.
Interesting. So I think in general, what motivates me to keep swimming is definitely, I'm a little bit I sign up for something, and that's what motivates me. It's the fact that I have the swim coming up that motivates me. But then during the swim itself, I don't think I rely on motivation at all. I think it's much more of for me, it's a decision-based model. I have taken all these steps to get here, and I have decided that I am not getting out until I'm done. So I don't swim and think about, the moment when I finish, because I don't know what that looks like. So much as just, I don't entertain the thought of not swimming while I'm swimming,
I like to achieve. And I don't like sitting still.
You are the Energizer Bunny, as far as I can tell.
and there's a third one, Shannon. I love the way the water feels. I know, there's lots of motivations and reasons for people to marathon swim, and yes, it's an incredible feeling finishing. I love the feeling of my body slicing through the water. I love the way it feels on my body. it's a natural decompressant. It's being in the water releases dopamine. It's the pressure of the water. It's incredible. It's an incredible feel-good thing. So anything that keeps me in and around the water keeps me happy and bubbly, and it's really my little magic juice.
Just the enjoyment. I just really enjoy it. It's something I can do, and it's something that I usually get there in the end. And I've been doing open water swimming since before it became popular, and I just really love it. And I think here, the city camaraderie with the British Long Distance Swimming Association and the FIBIes, as they're called, yeah, it was just a nice thing to do.
What motivates me is the finish. I wholly believe in safety. I don't think I'm reckless. I wouldn't argue with a boat captain or crew, but I'm not getting in the boat. Now, of course, if they tell me it's time, it's going to be time. But in my own mind, I'm not getting in the boat. And so what motivates me is finishing. As far as additional swims, there's just so many. And it just seems like in the last year or two, people were thinking up these incredible swims. It used to be kind of a handful of the big swims that everybody did. And now everybody's doing just really interesting, great things. And I think my focus is more on kind of destination swims that interest me, as opposed to, checking off the box of things I have to do. So I look for places that I think would be really cool to swim.
Tell us about a favorite swim memory.
It's a tough one. A scar, actually, Roosevelt swim. I was swimming and I was, Mark Spratt, he's obviously, Mark, and him and I swim at a very similar speed. So we spent the whole of Scar sort of like either swimming next to each other or whatever, but we were a very similar pace. And we went out in Roosevelt Lake, and for about the first hour, it's only a 10 kilometers, so it's only a 6-mile swim in the evening, but you swim from day to night. And I went out hard with Mark, and after about an hour, I just thought, stop. You're never going to be in Roosevelt Lake under the stars with this amazing view ever again, maybe. So just enjoy it. So I think I finished way off what I should have finished off, but I think the last 3 miles, I think I did breaststroke or something, or backstroke, because I just didn't bother the last 3 miles. I just floated around and enjoyed it. So, and that was probably one of my most memorable moments in swimming. So,
gosh, there's so many. I don't know
what pops up.
I don't know. I mean, probably one of the greatest swimming trips of all time was when crudlenning Elaine Howley and I swam Loch Ness. We spent 2 weeks together in Scotland, us and our crew. So we had this big, huge house rented in the Scottish Highlands. And, it was just this fabulous couple of weeks of swimming and eating. And, I don't drink, but everyone else does. And, so just good old fashioned debauchery, and we happened to get to swim Loch Ness in the middle of it all. So that's probably one of my just most cherished swimming memories. Though I hate to just single one, because I'm sure that there's other fabulous stuff out there. But just, if I'm looking at big picture stuff, that was a pretty special 2-week period in my life that I, remember very well.
Oh, there's so many. I mean, there's been so many hilarious, even just silly things not silly things, but beautiful things like the dolphins of Catalina. That was probably just because I was having a bad I got so hot in that swim, man. It was like, it was hot. I got like, my stroke rate was dropping and my morale just went so low on that one. Sorry. I'm going to do Celsius because I don't know Fahrenheit that well. I think it was around 17 water, but the air was like 19 or 20 at least. At least 20. And I was just overheating and then my stroke rate just dropped so much. And I've never asked for more calories before on a swim. And I did on that one. But it was just, and then of course I started feeling cold and they kept asking me if I felt the temperature drop as you get to Catalina, like as you got over there. And I did start feeling a little cold towards the end, but not really. It's just weird because it's weird when you're very hot, but you start shaking.
Wow.
So they thought I was dehydrated, and then so I just kept drinking water, and they just said, well, you did everything we asked you to, so we can't ask any more of that, right? But that was, probably one of the better ones was that. I mean, I've had some amazing experiences, like the memories of swimming around Bowen, which is over there, of having a clear night sky. The only time I've ever had clear night sky, and then all of a sudden phosphorescence appeared below me as well.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't tell. Like, I thought I was hallucinating. I couldn't tell what was up and what was down. And I kept over rotating, and I realized that the little stars were closer together, I think. Or, the stars were further apart than the phosphorescence, or if they were bioluminescence. But just, they look so similar.
Yeah.
And I was also I was swimming around this island and it was very dark and my boat crew was being great with no bright lights. And I was just going like, okay, I should probably go closer to the boat again. Because you're kind of sandwiched and you're like, okay, yeah, it's pretty, like you're just trying to navigate a little bit. I'm wearing lights and everything, but yeah, it was just very surreal having that experience. And then Vancouver was also lit up like in the background and I could see it. And it was so beautiful. And I was just like, I was so tired, I remember, for some reason, because I think I'd swam Catalina 8 weeks before that. That's why.
Oh, wow.
I was so exhausted, and I was just like, you know what? Okay. And then that was the only time. And then unfortunately, 6 hours later, that was the only time anyone ever attempted to pull me on hour 18 because they had no clue. Like, they were like, well, it only took her 18 hours swimming this channel. And I was like, yeah. And they were like asking me, do you want to stop? I'm like, why? I'm like, we have like only 2 kilometers left. And I mean, it might take us 3 hours because I'm getting pushed by a current backwards right now. But like, we finished the swim in 21 hours. It took me forever, but I got there because I wasn't going to like wreck my shoulders over it, right? Like, I just swam in one spot for 2 hours. It was super frustrating. And the same spot, I could see that spot from when I was doing my other swim too. Like, that's why I feel a bit guilty about swimming so much in my own water because I can see the spots now. And I was cursing myself outside of UBC when I was trying to get into kits, looking at the other spot from Bowen. And it was just, it was nuts because like, I'm okay with it. Like, who's okay with swimming against the current going nowhere?
I mean, I think that training trip in Italy was amazing. I think, well, it ended badly. We all got sick. But I don't know. I think, for me, Coney Island is like a really special place to swim. And I think it's unbelievable, being in New York City, but also being at the beach at the same time. And, the normal sort of basic route is you meet at Brighton Beach and you swim to Coney Island, which is, a mile this way. And just like being in the water and seeing, the cyclone and the parachute jump, those are sort of like amazing moments, and just the community that's on the beach there.
I think within that 18-month period, I DNF'd Catalina, the English Channel, and Manhattan, so that was my triple crown. And so here we are, there's me back on the second round of Catalina. Not a bad one to do again, because it's beautiful, it's really nice people. And the swim was incredible. It felt really good. I had a nice, I was happy with my pace, my time. And I got to that point where the boat stops and they said, there's the shore, it's time for you to swim in. And I actually was treading in the water and I pinched myself. And I'm like, is this really happening? I mean, not only can I see it, because, you're always told not to peek, there it was. Yeah. Time to swim in, Charlotte. And I'm like, now, are you sure? I don't hear much. What? And yes, it's all you got to do is swim in and get on the shore. I'm like, and you never want to say this to yourself, I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
I'm going to get there. It's probably a couple hundred meters, 200 maybe at the most. And I'm excited. No, I don't want the last feed, thank you. I think I'll swim in now. So in I go. In my mind, it's my 100 sprint. I'm sure it's like that. So in I go, and I'm strolling up the beach, not like meant for Magog, where I was, just a wreck, and putting my arms up to be done. Well, in I go, and the surf crashes me on the rocks, and I hold on to them, and then I'm holding on and being dragged back out. And back I am out there, and I'm like, are you kidding me? So in I go again, faster and stronger. And I go my hand and knee on seats. In I go, and the surf just pulls me back out. And now I've got rocks down my suit, my goggles are off, my cap's half gone, and I'm back out there, and I'm like, beep, I'm like, I'm going to come back. I'm not coming back another year, swimming another 20 miles to get this little bit done. So in I went, and I land my hands, and I get my knees fully on the shore and my toes, and I'm digging, and the water's pulling me back. And I'm just everything I've got left. And I look up, and there is this delightful fellow who's working at some sort of resort, scrambling down the rocks because he sees I'm in distress. He's running over to help me. And everyone on the boat's going, don't touch her. And now my cap's gone, my hair's everywhere, I got blood on my hands and my knees, and I'm going, don't touch me. And he's looking at me like this crazy woman. And he runs away like I'm about to harm him. And then because it's like, he touches me, I'm not fully out of the water, I'm toast. And so I haul myself out, and then I turn around and I sit and I look back out to the boat. And I just sat like this with my hands under my chin. And the words actually, I don't really know where they came from, but it was, holy flippin' crap dog. And I couldn't believe that I'd made it. So that was a really a memorable one for me. And I'm pretty sure that the fellow didn't forget either. Probably hasn't gone to try and help anyone else.
Gosh, I think I've gotten to have a lot of experience, and I would imagine quite a few of us in this room have had experiences that nobody else will understand. I've swam with a pod of dolphins in the middle of the night in Molokai for 45 minutes, and they looked like ghosts because the phosphorescence coming off of them.
Oh my gosh.
I've swam and seen, I don't know what a pod of rays are called, but swim underneath me from Anacapa. I mean, there's things that I swam in a freaking solar eclipse.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, I didn't succeed, but I swam in a solar eclipse.
You did.
I think some of my favorite memories are like from the swimming is that where you realize that the world is so much bigger than you, and you're getting to participate in such a small you get to experience just a small gift of that world. But I think outside of swimming, I mean, just even seeing some of these faces here who are my dearest friends who don't live in Portland, Oregon, who will call each other up and be like, is it time for a swimming vacation? Let's go. And we hop on planes from various locations, and we meet up, and we eat a lot, and we swim some, usually less than we always plan to. But the people are so incredible. And that for me is, I think, one of the biggest gifts that marathon swimming has brought.
Favorite memory.
You probably have a million, right? You can give us 2 or 3.
Oh, I think one of my favourite memories is finally getting to the end of Lochmorrar. Lochmorrar was a very sort of difficult swim. I estimated it would take me 9 hours, and it actually took me 12 and a half. So it was a combination of things that I swam, the forecast had said that, to swim against the prevailing, the wind would be okay because the wind was supposed to come from the other direction. I was doing it for a church restoration project, and the ladies in the church wanted me to finish at the end that I actually swam to, so they could have a reception committee and kind of provide teas and coffee to raise more money. And the person on the boat who worked in the loch as well, because this, to finish it would have been so remote, there are no roads where I would have finished. He was happier supporting me doing it the other way, just in case anything went wrong. And the other thing is that there's no phone coverage in that area as well. So, but just when I started, it got really, really, conditions got quite wild and bad. And I've actually got a picture where I'm in the water and you just can't see me when I squall. And there were 3 points in that swim where I definitely wasn't moving forward.
Wow.
So, and again, because it had taken me so long, we hadn't gone prepared for me swimming in the dark. So it was on the point of being, I was on the point of being pulled because of that. But thankfully, it calmed at the end.
Wow. But
and when I came out of that swim, I just couldn't stand. My legs just wouldn't do. It's the only swim I've been like that. Yeah.
Wow.
The swim that I'm the most proud of is my double Catalina channel swim. So I started at like 6:45 on a Tuesday, and I finished about 4:15 on 4 o'clock on a Thursday a.m. So over 3 days, I got to Catalina in 12 and a half hours, something like that. And did the turn. Chris was at the turn, gave me all my stuff. I was back in the water in 4 minutes and felt great. And then about halfway back, the current was against me, and it took me 20 plus hours to get back. And it was, the second sunset was pretty awful. But that's definitely the swim that I'm most proud of.
I had a blast in Gibraltar.
Did you? I was hoping you'd tell us about Gibraltar.
Jim Clifford and I went to Gibraltar. It almost didn't happen because like 2 weeks before the swim, we got a call saying, he's moved the boat. You can still come. We canceled our lodging, canceled our airfare. We had 2 other guys that were going with us. Jim and I were talking, and we just said, hell, let's just do this thing. And so we put it all back together, and we went there, and we had a blast. It is, for me, the funnest swim. I think it can be a difficult swim if you get bad conditions, but Tarifa is a great town, great place to hang out and eat and drink good wine. The Swim Association does a good job. And swimming from one continent to another is a pretty cool thing. Even though it's on the scale of marathon swims, it's relatively short, so it doesn't kill you. And Jim and I just had a blast. We had so much fun, and that was my favorite swim.
What advice would you give to an aspiring marathon swimmer?
Find these people. I think that the like I said earlier, I've been really fortunate to hang out with some really experienced people with really great insight, and we all do approach it a little bit differently, right? Like, I mean, that's actually, I've really enjoyed hearing other people's perspectives on how we approach it and how we handle it and how we go on with swimming, and what swimming means to people is different. And for the marathon aspect, I mean, there's so much knowledge here, and you can learn so much by by just talking to people and picking people's brains. Also, volunteer, because over the years, I've crewed a lot of different places, a lot of different roles I've observed. I've been crew. I've done, like I crewed first season night, I crewed the English Channel, and I crewed 20 bridges. So like I've seen those things now, and like I can actually visualize them, and I just, of course, then I have to actually pull the trigger and just sign up for some of this stuff, which has been the part that I haven't done yet. But like seeing those things, I crewed for Caroline Block across Lake Cayuga in upstate New York. So I was overnight. You learn a lot about watching people. And seeing how things can go well and how things can go sideways. And Greg O'Connor's adventure on Lake George, that ill-fated event, that was a whole other learning experience, So you learn things a lot by also volunteering. And plus the sport can't go on without people enabling us. I'm a huge enabler also. So if anybody has any bad ideas that they need a push to pull the trigger, then come to me.
Right.
Yeah, so you learn a lot of things.
Yeah.
I would definitely tell them to leave their ego at the shore. I would tell them to really examine their hubris, because I think some of the best swimmers that I've been with, are pretty quick to not listen maybe to our advice or take note of what we're doing when we're on the shore, because they think they know better, maybe because they got in once or twice. So I think just kind of watching, like slowing down, not talking so much, and just watching what your fellow swimmers are doing. If I'm swimming with somebody local, even though I have the experiences I do, if I'm swimming with somebody local and I see them putting on 2 caps or doing something that I've never done before, and telling me which direction they're going to swim, I'll probably follow them because I figure that they probably know better than I do those bodies of water. When I go to San Francisco, I follow those local swimmers. I ask them why they made the decisions they did. I try to learn from them. I always try to, set all my experiences to the side and learn from them. So that's what I would suggest for new swimmers to do as well.
Crew, that's a good one. Yeah.
Crew observed. I am telling you that I don't know that I probably would have found it, but I had the amazing good fortune of the first person I ever crewed was Ederle for, Eileen Burke. And she's since passed away, but she was this amazing spirit. And that year they swam from New Jersey to New York. And so you have all this time on the boat as you're going out. And she's like, you're new. Yeah, ask me anything. And I'm like, really? Because I have like a really long. She's like, yeah. I'm like, so I asked her all these questions. She was great. She jumps in, she starts swimming. Her husband is her crew. I'm her observer. And her husband says to me, watch this. Every time I stop her, she's going to be like, really, already? And every time he stopped her to feed her, she's like, really, already? And the pure joy of that she had for doing this was amazing. I mean, I cried when she finished. Right? And I was like, so I think that I have learned more about it. I've learned how, I've observed people who DNF'd and how they took that with grace and still got joy out of it. I've learned what to eat, what not to eat. Who do you want on your boat? Who you not want on your boat? Like, I learned a lot about the.
Who do you want and not want on your boat? Who do you want and not want?
Who do you not want on your boat? You don't want anybody who's going to cause drama. So you need somebody who's much more of a team player versus I got to be right. Because you get one or two of those people and all of a sudden, as you're swimming each breath, you can see this happening. You don't want that. You want people you trust. Like I always say to people that who I'm crewing for, and I say to that in the reverse is, my job is not to make sure that you can finish your swim today. My job is to make sure you can swim tomorrow. That's what my job is, as your observer or as your crew, whatever. My job is to make sure you're okay at the end of the day, because this is just a swim. So you want that person. I want people to look happy, but I don't want a lot of like, you can do it. Like, yeah. I don't want a lot of rah-rah. That's me. I need like calm and happy, but not cheerleading.
Interesting.
And somebody I trust. I say to somebody who's crewing or observing, I'm like, I trust you. And if you decide to call it for any reason, I will never be angry. You are doing this because you think it's the right thing to do, and I'm okay with that. I'm giving you this decision. So I do. I think crewing and observing is probably the best thing you can do when you're starting out. And I even still to this day, like I still learn. I was out in Hawaii this last year with Eric Shaw and Steve Grunwald. I learned a whole lot more about crewing that I didn't know. What does that mean in the middle of the ocean? What does that mean when you're trying to training to throw bottles in big waves and not clunk your swimmer? It's always something new.
Not uncommon advice to know somebody, talk to them. I guarantee you my success on the English Channel was being with somebody on their crew and actually seeing the whole thing from above the water. I did that on the Catalina Channel too. I crewed for a friend the year before my swim, which was really a great experience because that's such a different swim, having to ride the boat over there. And on that trip, when I did it, my coach never saw a stroke because she got seasick. Told her, you got to take these seasick pills and you got to, they don't always work. So, and I had another friend who started the swim, and he had gotten seasick on the way over. So just talk to people and don't be afraid to ask questions, because, we're all willing to share because we all want everybody to be successful in things they want to do.
Oh God, probably the same advice I got, which is just go and do it. Get your team together, and I think, I can't remember if it was Sarah Thomas or a few marathon swimmers on your series have said this. If you can get your family on board, it makes things a hell of a lot easier. If you can create that team network around you and the right people that are gonna, I need to be pushed, but I need to be pushed in a certain way. And I knew, I still am always trying to get, different support or better coaching and stuff. But I just say really get that. If you can create that team around you, if possible, and just every time someone says no or you can't do it, or there's such a good network now of marathons community that you don't need to listen to those people. Yes, they have some validity in some of the stupid things that we do, but you're not going to wreck. You're not going to kill there's the risk. I'm sorry, but so many people die in more higher risk sports and injure themselves in other sports than they do in even swimming. So why, if you're going to go and climb a mountain and do that, why not do this, So, but be cautious, because we have, even in BC, we have the networks. There's ways to do it where it's actually still safe and you're not breaking the law or doing anything. It's just not done a lot. Mm-hmm. Overall. So just don't find a mentor. I just keep saying find a mentor. I don't know it. Or I even said, because there's not a ton of us in BC, we can also tell you who to go to. I'm not saying come to me because I'm doing it, but I can give you resources and push you on other people. Mm-hmm. If you don't like my style, that's fine. My style is only one style and it's completely different.
Ooh, this is a good one, because actually I think my advice would be to never be shy about asking for help, like individual help, but actually to be very wary of people who are eager to give out blanket advice. Because I see this like a lot, you know, and I think that there are people who are out there who are willing to prescriptively say, you know, this is how you do X. And I think that the people who are probably most qualified to help, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm most qualified, but like you just notice that people who are experienced in the sport are very gracious in giving advice when asked personally and in context of what you mean for yourself and your swims, or else they're very conscious of putting things in terms of their own experience. But solutions that say, you know, you should feed on, this is what you should, you know, take in during your swims, or this is how you should train. The people who are giving that kind of advice are maybe misguided. I don't know. And that's my advice would be to avoid that. Because really, I think the constant is that there is no, like, we all want to go from A to B. But how we get there is so varied. And I think that would be a really important thing to keep in mind, that like, if somebody tells you that you have to train this much a week and that's not working for you, that's okay. Maybe, you know.
One thing I think is that I've learned is don't rush. Like, there's lots of time. I mean, I feel like that's kind of what I did with the Boston Light, was trying to take on too much. You know, there's lots of time, and, you know, they're great things. Like, I love the Kingdom Swim, the way that they're sort of events that you can bite off a bit longer distance each year. And, you know, you can do that other places by picking and choosing your events. But I also think that, you know, find your community. I mean, I can't imagine how I would have be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for the community that's in the Boston area, which is so incredible and nurturing and fun and supportive. And I mean, I look over here at Elaine and, you know, I just think about, like, I think of like her advice in terms of like, be safe and think things through and be careful, you know, that you're always have to be assessing, how do you feel? And I'm not sure I would have known that if, you know, I didn't have the, you know, a seasoned community around me. So, yeah, so definitely find people who, you know, have some experience.
Sometimes you've just got to act, you know, act now, think later, do it. Sometimes if you think too much, it just doesn't happen. Don't fear giving it a crack because of what might happen. Look, I've DNF'd plenty. I've landed some swims and I'm still upright, smiling and positive. And if I can do that, you can go swim a mile, you know, or half a mile. You know, get half this time, get a mile next time. It's not going to be the devastation you think it might. So my advice would be act now, think later, do it. Get yourself signed up, work out how to get it done, set some little goals, build up to it. If it doesn't work out the way you hoped for, re-look at your training and what you're doing, reevaluate your goal, and either set another one or go for it harder.
I think preparation is really key. You need to be well prepared. I would say that you need to put in, you know, the miles, and if you're really serious about a swim, you need to put in a lot of hard work. Again, going back to the channel, I was swimming 5 miles a day from about January up until July, just, you know, going before work, at lunchtime and after work. I think working out what your feeds are and what suits you is very, very important, and planning them, how often you're going to have them, and getting the right support crew. And I think as well, not getting carried away and taking too many people with you, because I think that's a bit added pressure if you have too many people with high expectations.
Yeah.
But I think believing in yourself and just working towards it.
First of all, just swim. If you're looking to ramp up to bigger swims, so you got to look at what you're doing now and in a strategic way increase your distance and maybe your intensity. I don't think you need to go crazy and all of a sudden say, I'm going to swim 7 days a week for 4 hours a day, because you'll probably get sick of it and quit. But swim all the time. Listen to people you can find who've done this. Find a good mentor. Swim with a group. Don't just swim alone, because the group's going to push you. Think about feeding and how to get through a swim eating junk you would never want to eat on the
That's a good way to put it.
And get your head straight about what your expectations are and whether they're realistic and how you work up to it. I mean, I spent, I don't know, Liz, 2+ years planning to build my base to do the channel. And because I respected that swim so much and I didn't want to go over there and fail. So, you just find swims. The good thing is there's so many swims around, and find swims that will help you build from 4.4 to 10 to 17 to 25 and then keep going.
Yeah, I would say for both, do as much research as you can. With me, when I started winter swimming, I would pour over YouTube videos to kind of look at what the start looks like, what are people doing when, kind of just reading up on everything so much. And then we're so lucky. I think everybody on the line today has so much they can share and, learning from each other. But when I was a total newbie, just kind of reading through documents, looking at people's Facebook pages, even if I didn't know them. That's why it's really important for me to kind of keep mine very open, because that was one of the major ways I learned from more experienced marathon swimmers when I was just starting to swim. I would say with ice swimming as well, take it really gradually, and everybody is so different. Don't assume just because you did a kilometer at a certain temperature last week that you can do it again. It's very different from day to day. So the main thing that you should learn is kind of how to listen to your body. I've pulled myself out of a 200-meter swim if I'm not feeling it right, even if I had done colder and longer and felt fine. And I think just erring with marathon swimming and also with ice swimming, erring on the side of caution. If it ever doesn't feel right, don't push it. It's not a good idea.
That concludes the Marathon Swim Stories Summer Series. Thank you for tuning in. It was impossible to revisit everyone in the first season, but I hope that you were inspired to go back and listen to some older episodes. Thank you to the voices in episode 4. Louise Darlington, Mark Spratt, Molly Nance, Graham Schlachter, Chris Rutford, Courtney Polk, Jamie Monahan, Kelly Latimer, Cindy Werhane, Janine Sorrell, Colleen Blair, Elizabeth Almond, Carolyn Black, Martha Wood, Charlotte Bryn, Morag Hughes, Bill Shipp, Jesse Harowitz, Sarah Thomas, and Michelle Macy. Thank you for sharing your stories. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you were inspired by even just a moment of this story, please share it with a friend. You never know what might push someone out of their comfort zone so that they can find out what they're capable of. And please leave a review with your podcast provider. It truly helps others discover the raw and honest stories of these amazing endurance swimmers. Thanks for listening.